supporters of Dave's Tackle Box.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Dave's Tackle Box on Sunday, the 24th of March 2013, and what a week it has been. A week unlike any I have known concerning e-cigs since I've been vaping, which is some time now. And I'm going to try, at the beginning of this show, I'm going to try and do a kind of wrap-up of what's happened this week. I know we've given plenty of coverage, but I don't know about you guys, but I kind of had to sort of stand back, take stock of it, and try and understand what was going on. But before we do anything else, let's run the titles. Right, so as I say, I'm going to try in just a couple of minutes to... I've recorded a VT because I thought... I sat down and I thought, right, what's happened this week? And I made this big long list of stuff, and I thought, I'm going to record this as a VT so I can edit it. Otherwise I'll forget stuff. If I do this live, I'll forget all the important bits. So we're going to have a look at that in a minute. Later on in the show, I'm going to be talking again, because... Right, let me show you. The E-mini. Remember the E-mini? Right, last week when I showed the E-mini, there were so many doubters and naysayers there saying, you can't get through on one of those. So I said to you, didn't I? I said, when I re-recorded the show, which was part of my chaotic week because it didn't record last week, I said, right, I'm going to try it. I'm going to spend a day using nothing but the E-mini and see how I get through. So I've got that coming up. That'll probably be towards the end of the show. Before that, we're going to be joined by Tim Boniface, and we're going to be talking about a couple of things which are topical at the moment. One of which is the situation and the goings on with ECCA UK, the Electronic Cigarette Consumer Association. So we're just going to have a chat about that. We did start to touch on it last week, and then the recording didn't work, so that's been lost. So we might touch on a couple of those points, but there's been more developments during the week, particularly on Tim's RY4 radio show, and so we're going to be discussing that. And I don't know the full content of that. He's going to be taking the lead on this, so that'll be good. But before all of that, let's have a look at this little roundup I did of the week. So as I say, I made this big long list of things that went on this week in Brussels primarily, but there was the Matthew Wright thing and all the rest of it. So I sat down earlier and thought, right, let's reflect what actually happened. So here's a bit of VT. See what you think. See if you think the same as I did after that last week. Well, it's been a pretty exciting week news-wise in the e-cig world, particularly between Tuesday and Thursday of this week just gone. It seemed like there wasn't a minute to sit back and reflect on things were happening so fast. but I'm going to try in this very, very short piece to summarise the week the way I saw it. Things kicked off on Tuesday morning with the Channel 5 show The Right Stuff with Matthew Wright. I can't show you any footage because Channel 5 won't let us use it, but it's out there if you look at their sort of catch-up system. We knew it was coming on Monday night because it appeared on the Right Stuff Facebook page, and the word got spread on the internet, and a few of us went and had a little pop about, you know, making the point that we'd like to see a balanced debate. They kind of squeezed it right to the end of the show on Tuesday. We spoke about it on Thursday night on the Hayes Hour, and to be honest with you, it was all a bit of a non-issue, that one. It could have been worse. It could have been an assassination job on e-cigs again, but it wasn't. It consisted basically of Matthew Wright playing devil's advocate, and then they had a panel that commented on stuff, which could be summed up, I would say, as two clueless hangers-on and Anne Diamond. It was refreshing to hear Anne Diamond, not because she particularly had any great insight or wisdom about e-cigs, but she recognised the concept of harm reduction. Put another way, she said, but if these are better than cigarettes, then surely they're a good thing, or words to that effect. So well played to Anne Diamond, speaking some sense, and the other two, well, like I said, they didn't do an assassination job because they really weren't clued up enough. The whole thing, frankly, was rescued and made worthwhile at all by somebody who phoned into the show, a guy who on the show was going by the name of Lee from Wiltshire, but we know him as Buxton74 on the UK Vapers Forum, who did very well to get a Vapers perspective into the proceedings. So in the end, not a disaster at all, and well done to Lee and Dan. Later on Tuesday, in that place they call Brussels, there was an Envy, that's the basically the health and safety, food and whatever agency from Brussels, the people who are trying to push through the revisions to the Tobacco Products Directive. They held a hearing for basically supply chain stakeholders to come and discuss some of the points of the proposed revisions, and specifically those involved in the sale of electronic cigarettes, so the industry, if you like. We heard sort of speeches from Kath Devlin, from ECCA, from cig-a-like, which is another trade organisation. They're the trade organisation that represent Totally Wicked and Flavour Art and a couple of other European e-cig industry players. However, I have to say that they seem to be much more of an American organisation. There were Enjoy were represented because they've got UK operations. I don't think that that's significant, but they were there, and an ECCA member, E-Lights, were represented too. One of the highlights for me of the debate on Tuesday was Dr. Konstantinos Faralinos. I hope I've pronounced that right. You can look him up on Facebook. He's a doctor. He's pro electronic cigarettes. He's got all the science to prove why they are not dangerous and shouldn't be regulated over 4 milligrams per milliliter of nicotine strength. Look him up. There's footage out there if you didn't catch our coverage during the week. Not sure he made that much of a difference because it turns out that experts weren't actually invited to that session. But he was determined to say his piece, and I agree with everything he said. How effective he was, I just can't comment really. I don't know. Now, my overriding feeling, having heard that as I was listening to it through on Wednesday morning, was that it did not reflect well on the e-cig industry and our cause. And that's not just my cynical or pessimistic view. Could be that, but it was supported to some extent by our sources in Brussels, who basically said that didn't reflect too well on your cause. So there was division on a number of things, you know, and without pointing the finger at any particular trade body, there were proposals to class e-cigs as tobacco products, which does not sound sensible to me. The relevant debate was whether they should be included in the TPD or not, and whether they should be classed as medical devices over a certain threshold or not. Linda McCavan, the rapporteur for MV, was really quite fierce. She went at the idea of flavourings and suggested that that was purely a way of targeting kids into using the products and all the rest of it. And whilst I think a lot of the speakers, the industry speakers, did put their points, it didn't look particularly well joined up to me. And I listened to that, and on Wednesday, when we covered this on VT Talk, I was feeling quite sort of depressed about the whole thing, if I'm honest. So on Thursday morning I was feeling a bit sort of downbeat and dejected about the whole thing. So I tuned into the Envy committee meeting, the part about the Tobacco Products Directive, thinking, oh God, we're going to get another kick in today. But it wasn't as bad as all that. There were some positive noises starting to come out of one or two fairly key players in this process. Linda McCavan, the rapporteur, her job is to get these revisions passed through the EU Parliament. That's her job, okay? On Tuesday, when she was talking to the industry representatives, she was really quite sort of aggressive and scathing. But she kind of opened up with, I don't know, maybe there was a little olive branch or something there on Thursday morning. This is what she said.
The Commission has made its proposal, which would mean that most e-cigarettes would have to be authorised as medicines. I've asked the European Parliament to pull together a study on all the evidence on this. And so, again, my inclination is that we do need to regulate e-cigarettes. Many public health officials think they can be useful for people to reduce the amount of smoking cigarettes, but they must be of at least quality standards. We've had 9 RAPEX alerts about e-cigarettes in the last year. We had some where there was no nicotine in the product at all, some where there was more nicotine than there should be.
Let's just listen to that again.
I've asked the European Parliament to pull together a study on all the evidence on this.
That, to me, is a crack. It's the door open slightly ajar. There's a recognition that the proposals as they stand don't fully address the issue of electronic cigarettes. It's no more than that at this stage. But there's a little lifeline there, and I know that ECCA and certainly the VTTV are going to try and exploit that little gap as much as we are able to do. One of the other positive things that happened during the committee meeting on Thursday morning was the comments made by Rebecca Taylor. Now, Rebecca Taylor is an MEP. She's a British MEP representing Yorkshire, I believe. But this is what she had to say.
In relation to the nicotine-containing products such as e-cigarettes, there is evidence in the UK from the National Institute of Clinical Excellence and from ASH, which is an anti-smoking charity, that they can act as a form of harm reduction. I think they clearly do need to be regulated, but I'm not sure if going a whole hog for a pharmaceutical marketing authorisation is the best way forward. We need to make sure that they are not attractive to non-smokers and that we do not renormalise smoking. So we could perhaps look at restrictions on advertising and promotion, and perhaps member states might want to ban them in public places as cigarettes are banned. And I would also like to see minimum age restrictions for these nicotine-containing products in line with the member states' restrictions for tobacco, and perhaps warnings, something like may damage your health, because right now we are not sure about that. Thank you.
Now, Rebecca runs a blog at rebeccataylormep.blogspot.co.uk. Excuse me looking over my shoulder, I couldn't remember it then. She has invited people to comment on that blog. If you feel inclined, do so. She strikes me as a lady who doesn't see this as black and white. She doesn't subscribe to quit or die, and it may very well be worth sharing your comments. If you've got something, read the comments that have been made already. If you've got something to add to that, why not add a comment yourself? And of course, that brings us to the issue of what we should be doing, write to them.com, put in your postcode, find out who your MEPs are, email them, and when they reply, enter dialogue with them. When they come back and say, oh yeah, e-cigs need regulating, blah blah blah, with these template letters that a lot of them are sending out, go back and say, but that doesn't make sense because, okay, keep in their faces. We are starting to open that little door a bit. We've got a foot in the door. Let's not let them off the hook. In case you think this is done, in case you think things are moving in the right way, I'd like to introduce you to, I'm sad to say, one of my local MEPs, a lady called Glenys Wilmot.
But I do want to concentrate on e-cigarettes. At the moment, they're regulated as a consumer product, and it's crazy that a product that has such a highly addictive drug is no more regulated than something like this pen I'm holding in my hand. It's, in all likelihood, it's true that e-cigarettes will be less dangerous than the real thing, but we really don't know. European consumers expect the products they buy to be tested and proved to be safe. We must regulate e-cigarettes just as we regulate other nicotine-containing products as a pharmaceutical product. That would ensure they have to undergo thorough assessment as to their safety and efficacy at helping smokers quit, because that's what they should be used for. It's worrying the way they are marketed. Adverts have already been on British TV. Increased use of e-cigarettes indoors, particularly in front of children, normalises smoking again, undoing all the good work that's been done. If e-cigarettes are a helpful tool to quit, that's fantastic, but they should be regulated and marketed the same as nicotine patches, sprays and gums as a smoking cessation product. This isn't about banning them, it's about closing loopholes. We have to take our responsibilities seriously. Thank you.
Sadly, there are a number of MEPs out there who share her opinions, and they're going to vote for the TPD revisions as they stand. They're going to vote against e-cigs. Later on Thursday in Brussels, there was another committee meeting where the TPD was discussed, and that was the IMCO committee, and that is the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee. Because, you know, we need protection. That's why we have all these committees. But basically there was some discussion there, and actually it was quite good. There was some reference to e-cigs, but it wasn't exclusively about e-cigs. But their snus probably got more focus. There was a guy called Schmidt. He was Swedish, and he came up with the expression, "Keep your hands off our snus." It'd be lovely if we could hear somebody saying that about e-cigs. Snus, e-cigs, very similar issue. You know, they're both tobacco harm reduction methods that stop people smoking, which is what the Tobacco Products Directive is supposedly trying to do. I liked him, but it was nice to hear some people kicking back, even if it wasn't directly about e-cigs. That's the week as I saw it. Possibly the busiest week that I've seen in terms of e-cig politics since I've been vaping, which is 2.5 years or something. We've got a long way to go, folks. Do use right to them, do get in their faces, do keep on their case and don't let them off the hook. There's a chink in the armour, there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, but we've really got to chase it down now if we want to keep doing what we would want to do. Thanks for watching. And there you have it. That was my little roundup. I think of probably most of the key things relating to e-cigs. And to be honest with you, so much happened. It was very hard to condense that into 10 minutes or whatever it was. Now, since I filmed that earlier, I have fired off an email to Glenys Wilmot. It turns out, and I didn't realise as I filmed it actually, it was only when I came to do the edit and I was actually researching her a bit. She's actually the British Labour Party's leader in the European Parliament, so she's quite influential basically. She's the kind of person, if we can sort of sow some sort of seeds of common sense, she may have influence with other MEPs and the way they vote. So I don't know. I mean, The flip side of that is at the moment she's rabidly anti-nicotine, not even just anti-tobacco, is she? She's anti-nicotine. She is the definition of ants. So I fired off an email to her this afternoon, and what I've tried to do, fortunately her speech was very short, so it's very easy to systematically pick out each point and try and offer an argument against it. And I asked her that, I pointed out to her Professor John Britton's statement that 5 million lives it could be saved if just the UK smokers switched to e-cigs, and pointed out to her that by making e-cigs unavailable and restricted in their flavour and the options that you've got, so as they become not a useful format, that's another way of saying you're condemning 5 million people, plus all the people in Europe who currently vape. So I've challenged her specifically to explain to me why she is representing me by making statements that don't seem to be in my best interest. And if I get a reply, I shall keep you posted. One more thing on the whole EU thing that I just want to mention is a big thank you to Very Boring, a regular viewer of VTTV, who posted on the Vapor Trails TV forum during the week. Linda McCavan made reference to some RAPEX reports about problems with nicotine being sold at different strength than it was labelled, and I think she said there were 9 issues. And VB went and had a look at these RAPEX reports, and he's posted some information on the Vapor Trails TV forum that suggests that actually it's nowhere near as scary as she may have been having us believe. So I undertake to have a look at that. I didn't have time for this show. I do apologise for that, but I've not ignored it, VB. I shall be having a look at that during this coming week, and I'll let you have my thoughts on it on this show next week. Right now we're going to take our first break, and as soon as we come back we'll be joined by Tim, and we're going to talk about the other hot topics as if there weren't enough already. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tap Box. Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tap Box.
And for once in my life I've brought up the right shot. I haven't brought up a picture of 2 of me sitting side by side for a change. How you doing, Tim? Is all well with you?
Not too bad, mate.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good,
a little frail and tired because it's Sunday night, but there you go.
Yes, and I gather you've been suffering with that bug that's been going round as well. So,
I have indeed, yeah.
so
Yeah, it's not been good today.
I'm the only one in this house that hasn't got it, because the missus is a childminder. We get everything in this house, right? So, so far, touch wood, so far I'm okay. Good. Anyway, we are pressed for time as usual. Cool. So I'd say we've got about 15 minutes or so before we have to start flapping. Brilliant. Yeah, Cat won't mind if we overrun by a bit.
No.
So now, right, I've got a confession to make. I said I was going to listen to RY4 radio on Friday night, but it's not very often you get to watch England win 8-0. So I I missed the first part of it, and I joined, and I probably heard that. I think it was the last 3/4 of an hour or so that I heard, and I heard some really good debates. You had Rowleygate on, who is the secretary of ECCA, Sam Munro, who I've seen is in chat tonight, who is the chairman of ECCA, and you had, and a couple of other people, right? At various times.
Indeed, yeah.
I remember that Leanna Lawless was on there as well. Blackwater Vapor.
That was on Wednesday.
That was on Wednesday. I'm confusing it. Well, that just shows you the kind of week I've had. So, anyway, I've demonstrated enough now that I don't know what you were talking about entirely on Friday. So I'm going to hand the floor to you, mate.
Okay.
Bring us up to speed with what's going on in ECCA.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of the show on Friday night was to actually find out where ECCA was and bring some new ideas to the table. Now, there was some stuff on the forum from Matt Gluggles a little while ago, with his sort of mandate for ECCA. And since then, we've talked quite a lot between us. So the time had come to bring them all together. So bringing Rowleygate, Sam and Matt together on the show on Friday to let them talk to each other and basically find out what they felt ECCA could achieve if it was financed, how it could be financed. And there was discussion on whether vendors or retailers should be allowed to help finance it, and basically that's a definite no. So that was something that was pretty much under the table before we even got on the road. And
yeah, well, can I just stop you there, because we were discussing last week, weren't we? And this is where I try and paper over some more of the cracks of the lost recording. We were talking about how vendors contributing and being a part of ECCA might be perceived. I've got an opinion on that. It's not necessarily the majority opinion. I don't think it's a great idea, not because I distrust any of the vendors, but because of the way they are perceived in Brussels. It seems to be that anybody that makes a profit out of e-cigs is the enemy. That's the way they're viewed. Yeah. Even if you're not really making a profit,
That's right.
It's that commercial interest thing, and we saw the contempt that they've been treated with in Brussels, to be honest with you. So that was kind of parked away, was it?
Pretty much straight away, because I mean, even if it was, they talked about having money diverted in from various other areas which could have possibly come from industry.
Right.
And it was decided that pretty much Brussels would smell that straight away. Likewise, anybody in the UK would as well. So I mean, it needs to be something that's funded by its membership, which is pretty much the case as it's going to be. But there's no problem with retailers helping produce the leaflets. I mean, this last week has seen statements from TW with the right direction on it, and the same thing could be done with ECCA through the retailers. There could be a sheet. I mean, it's all about mailing lists, getting to the vapors that are just the guys that come into the shop once a week, buy their juice and go away, and only come back when they run out of juice. They're not interested in anything else. But if they can become involved,
it's a good thing you mentioned about the Totally Wicked thing, because regardless of what you think of Totally Wicked, and obviously a lot of people who watch this particular TV channel, a lot of them share a common opinion on Totally Wicked. It was really encouraging, but let's face it, they've got a huge mailing list. Okay, I'm on it, and I was receiving an email telling me to check out clivebates.com, which is the message that we've been trying to convey here as well. So that to me seems like a positive thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that was another thing that came out within the ECCA show, that other vendors should be encouraged to get their mailing list with something very similar on it. I know e-cig Wizard are doing it. They're sending a little leaflet out with their package. So ECCA could get its message across in the same way from the vendors, just a little bit of paper, go to a website, join up, or through the retailers. Now they're all being talked about now, because Matt's got some great ideas, very enthusiastic about it all, and he's talking with Chris and Sam. And hopefully it'll be something that we can revisit in a few weeks' time and just say, right, well, this is what they decided to do. The ECCA AGM's coming up on April 14th, I believe.
Right.
I might be wrong there, but I'm sure it's April 14th, where new committee positions will be introduced, people will go on. Again, it was talked about having somebody whose involvement in the industry is commercial on the committee, that was seen as a taboo as well, really, although the Constitution doesn't forbid it.
Right.
The ECCA Constitution is fairly open on things like that. It's just about somebody being the right person for the job. But it was talked about, and it would be
I guess at the
consumers on the board.
I guess at the moment, though, you don't need to be a committee member to offer your services and your support to ECCA.
No.
So,
not at all.
That sounds like it could be worked around, and by that I mean, Matt Glugler, as he goes by on the UK Vapors Forum, he's been a guest on VT Talk a few times, and the guy's enthusiasm is contagious. And he does his homework, and he strikes me as an asset, personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just as what was there on The Simpsons. That's this reporter's opinion.
Yeah, I know. But it's my opinion as well, because I mean, he's great when he's on my show. I try to get back into the conversation, and I have trouble doing it because he's just literally just runs off and does everything, But I think something now. I mean, it's someone's well. Between what we've done over on RY4 and us mentioning it last week, we've put a fire underneath it now, and it's burning away, and the guys are talking, and I mean, it was great to have Chris on the show, because I mean, I'm trying to get him on for a long time, but it was great to have him on, because he's got a really, I mean, I just agree with everything he said all the way through. I mean, I tried desperately to get the show up on replay, but it needs some surgical editing at the moment, but it will be up on replay, so people can listen to what was said on the night and make their own opinions. I mean, it did go around in circles a few times, but there's a lot of really great information on there. But I think now ECCA could become effective if it all goes the right way, and the enthusiasm carries on, and of course people join. I mean, I'm going to be giving little bits of paper out to all my customers saying, here's ECCA, here's their website, go and join them. Look at the website. The information on it is fantastic. It's not just there for the general public, it's there for employers, because we touched on that last week as well, employers turning around and saying, our policy is no e-cigs, that sort of thing.
I think you make a fair point there, and one of the criticisms of ECCA has been that they're not that visible, that they haven't been as active as they might be. And I know that if I spoke to Sam, he would point out that what's all this they business, it's supposed to be an association by us, for us, and I do really take that on board. But that's the nature of the way these things work. So it kind of needs, what was the expression I used on your show? 20,000 volts up its ass.
That's it. That's the one.
And it looks as though that's happening. That's great, and I'm sure Sam and Chris are chuffed that there's a bit of interest there. So there would be some kind of, I guess, a sort of membership fee or something like that.
This is it. Yeah, I mean, we're just talking. For instance, £1. That would all it would be, because if ECCA is going to become effective as a consumers association, it's got to be able to send people, not necessarily to Brussels, but that's somewhere that they should go.
I'm sorry, I would say that they should damn well be sending people to Brussels, and when they're finished there, they can go to Westminster. Absolutely. There are expenses that need to be covered.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. Just covering the expenses, so the people, the representatives can go there, do their bit, and it's everything that ECCA's done so far has pretty much come out of the board's, the committee's pocket. I mean, if Chris needs to do something, he's done it himself. Likewise with Sam. It's all been done out of their own pocket. I mean, there was a few quid donated by various different people at times, but I mean, it's nowhere near enough. I mean, it needs to be as effective as CSAR is in America. It needs to be an association model, like that.
That's a good model, I think. Yeah, okay, that's good. Right, okay, what I'm going to do, Tim, is I'm just going to play a quick trailer for the South Coast Vape Meet in Portsmouth.
I'm thinking of going.
Well,
it's just up the road
in
from
case
me.
you need the details, watch this, and then when we come back, we'll have a look at this other story that we mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's the trailer. There he goes. welcome back. Okay, so I picked up on another story, and do you know what? I've been and gone and not got the article in front of me. How stupid is that? And I'll tell you what, I'm still missing my. See this space here? So that's where my laptop normally lives. And normally, if I would show you the web page that we're going to discuss now, but not tonight, because Tim's occupying the only screen grab I can operate with one computer. I'm afraid. So. This story relates to an article that appeared. It was the Telegraph, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It's terrible, isn't it? You know, I've read it, but I think it was the Telegraph.
It was.
I got alerted to it on a discussion on UK vapors, and it was actually Kath Devlin from ECCA who made a remark about nurses prescribing NRT and not telling the parents. And I thought, and then somebody put up a link, so I had a look at it, and this is basically the story. There's a school, and the nurse that visits the school a couple of times a month has been allegedly issuing kids aged 12 with nicotine patches and other NRT therapies. So I presume gum and the usual stuff. And what it seems like, if you read through it, because nobody will actually admit it's happening because of patient confidentiality, and that's another key part of this story for me. The kids are going in and say, well, I smoke. And they're being given nicotine patches by a nurse, not a doctor, a nurse. And they won't discuss it or even tell or inform the parents or the school.
No.
So that raises quite a few sort of questions for me. I've just noticed that my feedback seems to have frozen a bit, but I'll assume it's working for everybody else. So to summarise, that threw me a bit. You got nurses at a school dishing out nicotine patches to kids aged 12, and because of patient confidentiality, won't inform the school or the child's parents that they're doing it. Discuss.
It's been going on for a long time. That has. I don't know if you remember the story from a couple of years ago where a lad was actually given nicotine chewing gum during school hours, and he chomped through the whole packet during the day, and visited the hospital on the way home.
I never heard that story. That's
it's a couple of years ago. And that was because it was given to him by the school nurse because he said he smoked. It was because it was given to him.
That's absolutely scary. I'm sorry, you might have got a slight echo there as I refreshed my playback. Sorry for that. So they were giving the guy a packet of gum. He ate a lot. He ended up in hospital because of it.
Yeah, a little bit of an overdose.
I tell you why that's particularly bad. Okay, the reason I find that particularly bad is the amount of discussion that we heard in Brussels last week about e-cigs potentially being a gateway product and the flavours being attractive to children. And it seems that we seem to be fairly routinely, because the health authority that was interviewed for the Daily Telegraph argument said basically, yeah, we might do that kind of thing. So it seems to be like a policy that they're dishing out nicotine to kids already.
Yeah, I mean, from 12 years old onwards, it's always been that way. As far as I did a little bit of research when we talked about it earlier, and it looks like it's been going on for quite some time. And it's just down to I smoke. Here's your patch, off you go, and that's it. Doesn't, as long as you're over 12, they're getting them. What's the point?
It's a little bit scary, isn't it? I mean, okay, yeah. As a parent, you'd probably want your kids not to smoke, but to not know about it. I think that's dodgy. I mean, Kath went as far as saying it was disgusting, and do you know what? I'm inclined to agree with her. I
agree. So. I really do. I mean, at least all the parents that come into the doors of the shops around the country and buy the product for their children, and their children aren't 12. They're usually the 15, 16-year-old. Youngest one I've had parent buy for is 14, but they're all of that smoking peer pressure age. But their parents are quite happy with this, but they know about it, so it's something that they're quite happy to do. Whereas the patch on the arm from the nurse, Lovely. I wouldn't be too pleased if my boy came home. I mean, if my boy came home from school with one on his arm, I wouldn't have been very pleased.
Well, you'd have sold him an e-cig.
he doesn't smoke. He was interested, so I mean, lucky there. But
fair enough. Right, just gonna what we'll do, Tim, if you can stick around unusually, I'm not just gonna boot you unceremoniously off the air like I normally do at this point. But I'm going to play in our second ad break tonight, and then maybe when we come back, you could just give us some closing thoughts on ECCA and what people should do now. Okay, because there's a lot of people I see in chat. They want to know what they're going to do and where they pay and stuff like that. So we'll sort of close that one off. Let's take a break. See you in a couple of minutes. That camera there.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
And welcome back. Right, okay, so yeah, there were some comments there in the chat room, and you know, about ECCA and where do you go for more information and all the rest of it. And you can furnish us with that information, can't you, Tim?
I can indeed. You need to go to ECCA UK.
I promised I wouldn't.
And what?
Now you've looked it up. I promised I wouldn't say that. Click, I can't remember the URL. Yeah.
Right. The website is eccauk.org, and you can join ECCA there. It is actually free to join at the site. Now, as far as paying for memberships and things like that, that hasn't been set up or decided upon how it's going to work yet. But I'm sure that the guys can probably set something up, even via Facebook, on a donate via PayPal or something like that, for people to put some money into the coffers just to start things going. I'm just saying that off my own back, so Sam, if you're listening,
it's okay. We can say whatever we want, and Sam will sort it out. I'm sure that.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll just do it. Yeah, but I mean, go to the website, join up. Simple as that.
Do it. Join up, costs you nothing. Filling in a form. Have a read of the forum there. It's not the most active forum in the world. Last time I had a look, but there are. That's because not enough people are driving it. Frankly, so make it.
That's right.
Valid. But in addition to the forum, there's an awful lot of really useful resources and information on there. So no excuse really. It's free. Just do it. It's 5 minutes of your time to sign up, and then you might spend some time actually reading some of the information on there. Right, okay, now I'm just going to do a quick camera flick thing if this is going to play, and you never know, it might. No, it's not going to play. Yes, it's going to play. Alright, so I'm just going to flick to this. This is a picture of the E-mini. Right, this is a shot of the E-mini. Do you remember this thing? I did a review on it last week, and there were loads and loads and loads of comments about it in chat. People were saying they weren't last, and you used one, didn't you?
I did a day with one.
You did a day with one. Well,
yeah.
and
you it got can be done.
It can be done. Well, I wasn't convinced because, you know, I vape a lot stronger liquid than you normally, and so I thought I'll give it a go. So what I did, it was actually Tuesday, it was Matthew Wright Day, so you'll actually see little bits of Matthew Wright in the background, which will probably mean that this video gets taken down, thinking about it, but we'll see. Yeah, I hadn't actually considered that, but... this was my attempt on Tuesday to do it, and whilst I run this I'm going to let Tim off the hook, so I'll say thank you very much to Tim. This is how I got on using the e-mini. This is called e-mini day. Hi there, I'm Dave, and you catch me at, it's about 9:45 now on Tuesday morning. I'm a bit later than I meant to be because I forgot to actually charge up the thing that I'm going to be using today. It's a bit of an experiment, this. Last week on Dave's Tackle Box I did a sort of review and a closer look at this thing, which is the e-mini, sometimes marketed as the e-roll. It's a 90 milliamp hour cig-a-like battery, and tank system uses an ECCA atomizer head and a rather nice little personal charging case. And as I was showing the review live on the show on Sunday, there were a few comments from people in chat, and I've had a few comments in saying there's no way that something like this could help them last through the day. So I thought, with the right juice in here, as I said on last week's Dave's Tackle Box, if you put the right juice in my case a 45 milligram Bite Extra RY4 flavoured liquid into this, then it might get you through the better part of the day. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to use the single battery, so I'm going to be using this a bit like I used to smoke a cigarette basically. When I fancy a fag, I'm going to remove the e-mini from the charging case, vape until I've had enough, and then put it back in the charging case. And I'll do little updates, film little updates. I'll set the camera up here in the corner throughout the course of the day, and well, let's see when it all runs out on me. So I've got a little bottle of liquid here too. Let's get started. So the principle is that because I'm using this sort of hard-hitting juice, that I won't want to puff away on it all day like I would with a 25 milligram juice or something like that. But you know, we're now testing that theory, see how it works for me. So I'll see you in a bit. I'll just shut that up. So I'm just currently sitting watching The Right Stuff because they're doing a piece about e-cigs and whether they're evil, apparently this morning. Unfortunately I'm not sure exactly what time it's on, which means I have to suffer this programme until then. So I'm just hoping I don't put my foot through that screen later. Well, I'm still sitting here waiting for this thing to come on The Right Stuff. Got something about mothers returning to work to suffer through next. At least I've got my e-cig. Right, well, here we go. This is the e-cig bit.
It is illegal to smoke an e-cigarette indoors.
I don't
And the
know.
answer is false.
Right, let's see what happens here then, shall we?
Welcome back to the last bit of this morning show where Anne, Scott, Nina, and hopefully you can tell us at home. We're going to tell us what you think of e-cigs. Are they good news or are they bad? 0207 173 5555 is the number, whatever you're feeling on this. And while you're dialing, Kirsty, who's used e-cigs to get off cigs, has got some emails on this morning's other talk.
Thanks for the introduction. The e-cig lover. Do we still have a free press?
You're
this is an
e-cig
email.
lover.
I'm not a celebrity.
Looks like they're making us wait.
Person who believes if you shout something false, you
But right now we're going to find out what you think of electronic cigarettes and whether or not the 650,000 Brits currently using them are deluding themselves into thinking, I don't know, that they're going to live forever or something. But instead of breathing in cancerous smoke and tar, nicotine users, well, you get a nicotine hit carried on a cloud of water vapour. Manufacturers claim electronic cigarettes are a safe alternative to conventional cigarettes. E-cigs are currently not regulated, so legally can be sold to children, and there are no rules surrounding the purity or quantity of the nicotine they contain. Now, nicotine itself, you could argue, is not a particularly hazardous drug when inhaled. It can lead to increased heart rate, blood pressure, but it is one of the most addictive chemicals known to man. Professor John Britton, who leads the Tobacco Advisory Group for the Royal College of Physicians, reckons if all the smokers in Britain stopped smoking fags and switched to these, it could save millions of lives. Cancerous smoke, and that...
Wonderful.
As a passive smoker who had nodules on her vocal cords from passive smoking, thank God for these. Yes, great, but it's still going from one addiction to another.
My mother died of advanced lung disease, so those things scare me as much as a cigarette.
Scare you, or are they not slightly reassuring?
I actually do agree with you. I think it's just another addiction.
We have Lee on line 1.
Morning, Lee.
Morning.
Are you a fan?
I am, yeah. Basically, I tried and failed to give up smoking several times using patches and gum and lozenges and what have you.
Yeah.
And I never really lasted any more than 2 or 3 days. But since I discovered vaping, as it's called, the e-cigarettes rather than smoking, I've not touched a cigarette for 10 months.
And how many of those, I mean, the refills or whatever, I mean, are you on these every day, all day?
Well, I'm not using what they call the cig-a-like, so the ones that look like cigarettes, because I think they can work out quite expensive when you have to buy the little pouches.
You are still chugging away on... You're still getting your nicotine hit every day?
Yes, yeah, but in itself, nicotine is no worse than the caffeine in your coffee or your Coke or your tea or your...
with that, we've got to go, I'm afraid. Nina, real treat to have you.
Well, that was almost worthwhile.
A week if you can.
I love it.
See you,
I
yeah?
love it, yes, thank you.
Scott and Anne will see you tomorrow for more of the same. Ladies and gents, give it up for your wonderful panel.
Yeah, give it up. The usual guff, really. Well done to Lee from Wiltshire, though. At least he gave an alternative perspective. Seems to be what we're up against, really, doesn't it? Oh, God, I don't know. Anyway, it's now 11:10. This thing's still going. Speak to you a bit later. It's 12:03. It's time for the first refill. Done. Well, it's 2:20, and this thing, it's still going fine so far. I've just been using it, putting it back in the case, and I'm obviously not using it that heavily because it's got that really strong juice in it. So far, so good, but it's early yet. As I say, it's 2:20. Time now is bang on 8 o'clock, and I'm still using this. I've refilled it 4 times, so that's had 5 tankfuls. That's 2 mil of juice, which, as I say, with this stuff is generally about what I use during a working day or something. As you can see, it's still working. They're still charging the case, though I have no way of telling how much is left. But this has been running now since 9:45 this morning. It's now 8 PM. it's still going. Right, it's very nearly 9:30 and you can see behind me there I'm just watching the end of Advocacy and Marco's just doing his closing comments. And I've been using this while I've been watching. So it's 9:30, so that's near as damn it 12 hours since I started with this morning, and it's made it through. We often talk about how long batteries last in terms of time. I think the amount of liquid you get through is probably a lot easier for people to relate to it. And for 2ml, this has got me through. No guessing that it might, no speculation, it did it. If I put it back in the case, the little blue light is still coming on. It's going to go some more. I don't know how much more, I can't tell. But that concludes my little experiment. I will have no qualms at all taking this with me on a flight if I need to. I know that using this juice with this setup, I've got around about 12 hours of vaping at least. So it works. Okay, if I put in like the 25ml juice that I prefer to vape when I'm vaping for enjoyment, then it ain't gonna last anywhere near that long. Of course it's not. It's gonna be at least, it's gonna run out at least twice as fast. But it can be viable, guys. It can be viable. The question is what you put in it. So that was hopefully an interesting little experiment. I certainly enjoyed doing it. I'll be honest, I'm really looking forward to change from this RY4 extra stuff now. I can now. Now we've ended the experiment, I can go back to a Genesis. I can barely taste it because I've been on the Bite Extra all day and that just seems so weak now. But that'll come back. Anyway, that was fun. Hope you enjoyed it too. Thanks for watching. Oops. Echo. Shut that up. Right, yeah, okay, so I was just reading the comments in chat again. Now, the purpose of that exercise was to demonstrate that it can work if you only use a couple of mil, maybe 3ml of juice a day. The kit provides an additional battery, so you'd have got another one out there. I reckon I probably could have got 3ml through that. Now, normally I smoke more like 6 or 7ml at the moment whilst I'm at home all day, so it wouldn't be viable for something like that. But there was a question or a comment made in there, but you plug in a little battery into a bigger battery so it's charging all the time. But yeah, but you're not charging it on a USB charger at your computer or plugging it into the mains. You're literally doing that. You don't even have to screw the thing in with this one, and that's one of the things that I think sets it apart from others. I have given egos, or recommended people start using egos, to 4 people in the last 6 months or so, and every single one of them has gone back to cigarettes. And when I've asked why, the reason is they don't like the ego, they want something like a cigarette. So I defend this product and products like it, because the other cig-a-likes are available. I think this is probably one of the better ones I've seen, but the Inikin AIO is another example of something that works just as well. There's a market for them, and just because it's not my e-cig of choice doesn't mean it's crap. It's not crap. So there. Now I must be damn close to time. So I think it's time probably to start wrapping it up. Let's do a quick camera change. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. I've really enjoyed doing it. It's going to be another busy week. The things with the EU, they're going to be unfolding. I'll try and give an update at the end of next week, but I'm sure that we'll be hitting stuff at the other shows during the week if something worth reporting happens. Keep up the pressure on your MEPs. You know how to do it. Just been told I'm running over. So I'm going to say I'm out of here, and thanks for watching.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.